the answer.
With the power of Tandem HR, you are in the fast lane on Main Street with Get Down to Business with Shalom Klein, the show for business and jobs. Now, the champion of networking, the advocate of jobs, the guru of business, your host, Shalom Klein.
We are all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship and business. We talk a lot about business. You're on with Get Down to Business, and I'm your host, Shalom Klein. Remember, you can always download podcasts from Get Down to Business on my website at shalomklein.com. And while you are there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. It's going to be a jam-packed week of content and information you won't want to miss. Once again, always get on my website, shalomklein.com. That's where you get a sneak peek of who's going to be on next week on the show, all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Our first guest up on the program today is a friend of mine, Alan Lev of the Belgravia Group. Also on the program today, we have the president of AT&T Illinois joining us in a little while. But first up on the program, Alan Lev, thank you so much for joining us on Get Down to Business.
My pleasure, Shalom. Good to hear from you. It's been a while since we've talked.
Absolutely. So, Alan, tell us a little bit about the Belgravia Group and the work that you're doing in the Chicagoland area.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'm the president and CEO of Belgravia Group. We're a real estate developer in Chicago. We only do Chicago work. Sometimes build apartment buildings, but our bread and butter is building condominiums and townhomes for sale. We've been very busy since the end of the recession, although I know we're still in the midst of a slow recovery. But we currently have 3 projects under construction right now in the city, all condominium buildings. The 3 projects range from $1 million units up until about $3-4 million units. And believe it or not, of those 3 projects under construction, there's only 1 unit left. It is a very hot market right now for condominiums in the city.
That's what we've been hearing, and it's amazing to watch the market and watch the growth. Tell us a little bit about some of the other projects that our listeners might be familiar with and have seen throughout their travels in Chicago.
Well, we've been building. My partner started this business with his father, and they actually started building in Chicago in the late 1940s, back in the time where nobody would venture west of Clark Street, if you can imagine that, after World War II. We built such high-profile projects such as 600 North Lakeshore Drive, which is just across the street from Navy Pier and the beach over there. There was a 400-unit project that we completed, in about 2010. We built another building at 530 North Lakeshore Drive, which was 200 units a few years before that. We've developed commercial properties such as the Webster Place Shopping Center and the Esquire Theater and a number of other things. I've personally been at it with my partner for 30 years, and we've built close to 3,000 homes in that time period.
That's are all of the projects residential, or do you also get involved in some mixed use as well?
We sometimes do mixed use. It depends on the location. If the location is one that is conducive or dictates retail space, we would have it in there. But many of the projects that we do are not like that. They are really purely residential sites, and therefore wouldn't have any commercial use. One of the more higher profile mixed-use projects we did was many years ago, where the old Belden Deli and the Jewel were located on Belden and Clark. If you remember back then from that neighborhood, we had the Lincoln Towing Company, which is where the song by Steve Goodman, the Lincoln Park Pirates, came from. But we tore that shopping center down and built a mixed-use project there of 2 stories of commercial space and apartments above, and that was back in the 90s.
Once again, we're chatting with Alan Lev, the president and CEO of the Belgravia Group, based right here in Chicago. And Alan, you implied it just a few moments ago about the continued recovery that Chicago and the rest of the country is going through. What do you think about the Chicago business market? And I'm really expanding that question beyond real estate, because I know you've been involved in technology and innovation as well. What do you see in Chicago compared to the rest of the country, and how do you rate doing business in Chicago?
Well, that's a long and loaded question. I'm not going to get into the politics of things, but believe it or not, Chicago, from a real estate developer standpoint, is probably a little more reasonable to work in than some of the other large municipalities around the country. I mean, granted, we have to get aldermanic approval and neighborhood approvals, and permit process takes a long time. But frankly, it's not as bad here as it is in some other parts of the country, such as New York or Miami, San Francisco. So it's doable and reasonable. It is expensive to do business in this city. There's a lot of hidden fees and taxes. The city's got an affordable housing ordinance that they just updated again recently that it is in essence a tax on developers providing housing in the city, and with a laudable goal of providing affordable housing. But the cost of building in the city have gone up substantially in the last few years. Construction costs are way up. Land costs are up. Governmental costs are up, as I talked about the affordable housing ordinance. And it's creating a situation where it's very hard to build housing right now in Chicago at a reasonable price point, and that's why you're seeing a lot of higher-end for-sale product built and not things that are a little bit more affordable right now. Absolutely.
And Alan, you mentioned a moment ago regarding fees and things like that in Chicago, and certainly our listeners are familiar, obviously, with the discussion about the state budget. But putting those challenges aside, Chicago has a lot of great things going for our community, including places like 1871, which are really a great hub for new innovation and some startup talent. I'm curious your take on how, again, 1871, some of the other hubs of innovation and incubators, how you feel that contributes to the reputation that Chicago has compared to the rest of the country.
Well, it's lifted Chicago up in the sense that it is becoming a technology hub, certainly not on the scope of a Silicon Valley, but I'll go further than that and say that you see a whole horde of companies that had suburban headquarters or didn't even have headquarters in the area that are now moving down into Chicago. I mean, we have the Google headquarters. We now have McDonald's moving in, Motorola. And these are big companies that don't move out of their other campuses or move down into the city on a whim. They obviously know that the workforce that they want and they have want to live in the city. So while the population of the city may not be increasing greatly, we are seeing an influx of the millennials, moving to the city from all around the country and the Midwest, but also staying in the city. So this is why we're seeing a huge jump in the last few years and for the foreseeable future of apartments being built in the city that we didn't see before the recession. So it's changed the dynamics of housing in Chicago.
And that's for sure, and it's fascinating to watch year by year the changes that are taking place. And Alan, we are quickly running out of time, but as our listeners surely know, we love to, as we talk to entrepreneurs and successful business owners like yourself, we love to get a little bit of tips or advice, information that are relevant to entrepreneurs and to small business owners. Alan, is there any information that you think, gosh, I wish I knew that, having gotten started in business, I believe you mentioned, upwards of 30 years ago? Are there any of those tips that you can pass along to our friends in the small business community?
Oh, I got a whole long list of them, but I think I think they boil down to one thing, or a few things. One is integrity, and always trying to do the right thing in a situation, no matter how difficult it is, and also try to find a mentor. I was lucky enough that my partner is 20 years older than I am, and when I started in the business, I was young and green and didn't know a lot. And I was like a sponge. And I think if you're lucky enough to find or luck into finding somebody who can mentor you and teach you along the way, that brings with it all the lessons that you need to learn to be an entrepreneur.
That's right. We say that all the time on this program, is surround yourself with good people in areas that you might be weak. whether it's in finance, marketing, management, identify people that can be your mentor and that you could look up to, and hopefully, if you are fortunate enough to be able to spend time with them. We appreciate that advice. Alan Lev, the CEO of the Belgravia Group. Alan, if our listeners want to find out more about your project throughout Chicago, where can they find you?
Yeah, the best place to go is our website. It's www.belgraviagroup.com, BELGRAVIA group, all one word.com. And on there you'll find our latest project, which is very exciting. It's called Rennell on the River. It is a brand new condominium building that we just kicked off between the Wrigley Building and Trump Tower right on the river in Chicago. So the exciting new building of 3 and 4 bedroom residences that'll be coming soon. Exciting initiatives taking place.
Alan Lev of the Belgravia Group, thanks so much for joining us on Get Down to Business.
Well.
Absolutely. Well, as always, you can get on my website, shalomklein.com, to download podcasts of Get Down to Business. Next up on the program, we have Paul Laschiazza, the president and CEO of AT&T Illinois. He'll be joining us after this quick break. So, Chicago, don't touch that dial. You're listening to Get Down to Business. We are powered by our good friends at Tandem HR. Once again, don't touch that dial.